Hello, my name is Shelby Garcia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I've been better.
What makes you say that?
I don't know. Lately, I've been feeling very isolated from my family, and I've been like feeling very alone from everyone and disconnected.
Okay, so before we get started, I want to go over a couple things with you. First of all, this session is completely confidential unless you're trying to harm yourself or others. So, based on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not at all and 10 to be very likely, what would you put yourself on the scale as to harming yourself or others?
I think either a 0 or a 1.
Okay, and what makes you say that?
During like the downtime and like the down parts of my life, I mean, I've never that's never really been an option to me. It's mostly kind of just in my head that's really takes a toll.
Okay, so I also want to go over a couple things. So, this session could be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. We are going to go over some pretty personal questions about your personal history, your personal life, some family issues, medical history, and just, some things along that line. If you feel uncomfortable at all in any of these areas, you can tell me that you're uncomfortable and we can move on. Does it sound good?
Hmm.
Okay, so let's start. So you're saying that you're feeling isolated from your family.
Hmm.
Can you go into a little more detail about that?
Well, like recently I've been like I don't want to hang out with my family. I mean, when I come home from school, I want to go right up to my room and just shut out everyone.
Hmm.
And when my dad calls me, I rarely answer his calls and I rarely call him back. So I don't want that interaction.
And when would you say that this started happening?
Maybe around a year ago, around I guess around a little after graduation.
So did you just start college this year?
Yes, I did.
And how has the transition been from graduating high school to entering college?
It's been pretty good. As far as schooling goes, it's harder, and but I mean sometimes it's hard because I made new friends and they're like, oh, you want to hang out, and but here I am still living at home under my mom's rules. So I mean I'm really limited and it's kind of rough.
So has this had any effect on your personal life? You said that you can't really hang out with your friends anymore because you still live at home. How has that impacted your friendships?
Some of them it's hard because they think that I'm avoiding them or they think that I'm just making up excuses when my mom is just really strict. So, I mean, it's hard to go and do things that like my mom doesn't approve of. So
Hmm.
it really is like awful because, I'm 18 and I should hope that I would have like a say in my own choices, but.
Have you thought about moving out?
I've been trying. I got a job. I've had a job for a while and I've been trying to save up so that way I could move out. But right now, I just decided to buy a car. That way, I'll get better gas mileage. So that way, I can get more money. But I
Mm.
mean, it'll be at least at least half a year before I can move out. So, which is really upsetting because I've been trying so that I can be independent.
Okay. Going back to school, you said that you're having a little bit of problems transitioning. How are you doing academically in college so far?
I've been doing all right. I mean, I have mostly B's and a C, which is not good because I'm a Crimson Scholar. So I
Hmm.
mean, I need to keep my GPA up, but I mean, it's been pretty rough.
Do you skip any classes? Does that have any effect on any of your grades?
It definitely does have an effect, especially the one I have a C in. It's math and it's pretty important, but I mean, it's so hard for me to find the motivation to go, and I don't want to go to the tutoring center for help, and it just drains me.
Have you had any of these problems before in any of your academic history, such as middle school or high school?
Not really. I mean, in high school, I had the problem of not like asking for help and just like, taking a 0 instead of going in for tutoring. So, I mean, as far as that goes, yeah.
Okay. Um, let's talk about the relationship with your parents. So you said a little bit ago that your mom is really strict, and you kind of mentioned your stepdad. So can you explain your family dynamic in here?
Well, so my parents got divorced when I was 3 years old. So, they got divorced, and then I stayed with my mom's during the weekdays, and then
Hmm.
my dad's on the weekend, and my dad lived out of town, and my mom lived in Garfield.
Hmm.
And then when I was 5, my parents both of them got remarried to different people,
Hmm.
And so then after that, my mom and my stepdad had two kids, and then my stepmom and my dad had one kid, and my stepmom had already had two kids from a previous relationship. And then a couple years later, my dad and my stepmom got divorced. So, and then my dad had to move. And so my dad currently lives in El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and then once I hit about middle school, I didn't go see my dad anymore because, I mean, I had extracurricular activities.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I stay mostly with my mom and my dad. So, I mean, so it's mostly been my mom and my stepdad that raised me.
How do you feel about your mom and your stepdad having kids after you?
I mean, when I was little, every little kid's excited to, have new siblings. But, at the same time, like, it's almost to the point where, like, I mean, I don't, like, feel hate towards my sisters or my little brother, but it's, like, kind of, like, sad towards my mom, like, was she not happy with us three?
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, at the same time, I get that, like, her husband, my stepdad, would, want to have, a kid with her.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, later to figure out that, like, he told her that he was just happy with us three. So it's kind of like, sad that, her three original, for lack of better words,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, like, good enough,
Mm-hmm. And does he have any children with your ex-stepmom?
Yeah, I have one little brother.
Okay. Do you feel like them having kids after you contributed to your middle child syndrome, as you put it?
I definitely think so, because, I mean, when when they were born, both different sets of
Mm-hmm.
kids, I was about 7, because we're 7 years apart. So, I mean, I was going into, elementary, so, I mean, I was already in school and, like, taken care of, like, nobody had to watch me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then, a newborn baby comes along, and, all of your attention and effort goes into them. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and, my sister was in almost out of elementary, and my brother was in middle school, so, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to really, I mean, you still have to take care of them, but it's not as much, like, that right from wrong now, and so.
And was a lot of responsibility put on you when they were born and as they've grown up?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I've had to do, like, so many, chores growing up, and I'm not bitter towards that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I can do so much for myself now, and, like, having to, like, do laundry and, do the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
change diapers. So, I mean, I'm really prepared, but at the time it was just, oh, why do I have to take care of my sisters? Why do I have to do that? And it was, like, really draining.
And how's your relationship with your younger siblings that are your moms and your stepdads?
I mean, it's really good. I mean, it's nothing different. Like, it's just, we're not as close because, I mean, there's such a big gap that, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to, like, be really close. I mean, but we're as close, we talk about, like, their school and stuff. And, other kids ask how we're related. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
funny because my stepdad's black. So they
Mm-hmm.
they're really dark. And so it's really funny to people when they're like, are you sure you guys are related?
And what about your younger brother on your dad's side?
Well, that's funny because when my dad and my stepmom were still married, like, we weren't allowed to, like, play with him. It was just like, during their time being married, the house was like, we lived, like, in a separated house almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't talk to her kids, and they didn't talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
And there were certain foods that we couldn't eat because they were theirs. And so, I mean, up until the point that my dad and my stepmom got divorced, we basically didn't even talk to him or play
Mm-hmm.
with him the whole time he was growing up until after they got divorced. And then now he lives mostly with her in El Magordo
Mm-hmm.
and only comes to see my dad every once in a while. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the times that, we go and see my dad and that he goes are very, like, slim. And just now, like, as of a year and a half, we finally got to the point where it's not so, like, awkward when we see him
Mm-hmm.
again, and we can actually be, like, more of sibling instead of just, like, awkward people.
And how is that growing up in that type of situation?
I mean, it was really hard because, I mean, I love to go see my dad because it was always fun, but then, like, they didn't act like they acted married and like everything was fine when everybody else knew that, it's like the white elephant in the room that
Mhm.
nobody wants to talk about. So
Mhm.
whenever we were there, usually my dad would take us somewhere and we go to like the Ladder Ranch or something to go hang out because we didn't hang out with them.
Mhm. It sounds like a very interesting childhood.
It was.
And you had said a little bit earlier that your stepdad was black. And what is your cultural background?
My dad is Caucasian. My mom is full Hispanic,
Mhm.
and my stepdad is African American.
So would you say that his cultural difference and your mom and your dad's cultural differences have had any impact on your life?
I definitely think I'm a lot more well-rounded. I mean, my dad like listens to like a lot of country. My mom's like kind of oldies, like
Mhm.
that sort, and my stepdad's more hip hop. So
Mhm.
I mean, just as example for music, I mean, I listen to all kinds of music because of that. And
Mhm.
then like his like food choices, like a lot of fried foods. My dad's are a lot of like game meats, and then my mom's a lot of Mexican food. So it's like
Mhm.
a lot of different aspects that I get to enjoy.
And have you noticed any differences within cultures in the three of them?
I think definitely on my dad's, like with they're definitely the like Protestant like church people that are very like they're very no gay marriage, like no abortions, no birth control, things like
So
that.
very conservative.
Yeah, very conservative. And
Mhm.
then, on my mom's side, it's not, it's more like big family. Everybody knows everybody's business.
Mhm.
Little Mexican ladies like in the kitchen, all the gossip. And then my
Mhm.
stepdad, he tells the stories like from Georgia of like them going and like stealing chips from like Lay's companies and like all the stuff he did. So it's like completely different.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like you have a very large family.
I do.
And do you think that having so many people in your life contributes to this isolation that you're feeling?
I think it probably does because I mean, there's so many people to give your attention to, and like I'm the middle child, so I mean, you're not like doing the things first, and you're not the last one to do them. So I mean, it's kind of like you get left in the middle where odd things fall.
Right. That's understandable. Um, how many siblings do you have?
Um, I have my older brother, my older sister, my two younger sisters, and a younger brother, so five.
So five. And are you close with any of your siblings?
I'm really close to my sister. She's 3 years older than me, and I'm close to my brother, but not like
Mm-hmm.
super close because he's a guy. So it's definitely closer with my sister.
Okay. Um, Going back to your parents, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but how would you say that your relationship is with your biological mom and your biological dad?
With my biological dad, I think it's definitely I don't want to. I mean, he is my dad, but at the same time, he doesn't have much authority over me. Because I mean, not that he hasn't been there. It's not like he just disappeared, but he's never like he hasn't disciplined me since I was like little. So when I go over him, it's almost like you're going to see an uncle or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I still love him like my dad. And then with my mom, she's been like the sole person to discipline me. So it's like a lot different. Like she's definitely the one person who has like complete authority over me,
Mm-hmm.
over everyone else.
And what about your step parents?
So, well, my dad has a new girlfriend, and I mean, I don't see them often because she moved to Costa Rica.
Oh wow.
And then my stepdad, I mean, he kind of tries to like stay out of it. I mean, he doesn't want to get involved. I mean, he's been around the whole time, but
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't want to like have to take the place of like my dad. But at the same time, it always ends up being just like my mom and I fighting because he doesn't want to step in and take a side.
So do you feel closer with your mom and your stepdad than you do with your dad and your step or his girlfriend?
Um, I wouldn't say I'm not exactly the closest with my parents. I mean, I think it's more of like I see them as like authority. Like I don't confide in my parents. Like I
Mm-hmm.
just don't feel that relationship. I don't know if I never had it or I
Mm-hmm.
just don't feel like I don't feel the need to confide in them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not on that level. So
So, growing up, when you ever had an issue that you needed to take care of, who would you go to?
I would usually go to my sister because I mean she was always there, like regardless of whose house we were at.
Hmm.
So she's always right there next to me.
And growing up, how did you handle stress with your parents? So, let's say that you had a conflict with school, or you had a conflict with like a sibling. How did they handle stress, and how did you handle stress with them?
Usually, growing up, I mean, if you got in a fight with your sibling, you kind of had to work it out because, their mom was gone trying to, have food for us on the table because
Hmm.
she was mostly a single mom growing up.
Hmm.
And then, so if we had a fight, we had to like resolve it with each other. And then, like half the time, you wouldn't even want to tell her because then you would just get in trouble, and that wasn't fun. So I
Hmm.
mean, and if it ever did have like a bad thing, I usually just kept it to myself. She had enough problems to worry about, so why give her another one?
Okay. So in this process of I'm in this process of coping skills, is there what do you usually do to cope with like anxiety or stress?
I definitely think I have some pretty bad coping mechanisms. I mean, I really don't like to reach out to people or
Hmm.
like express it. I mean, usually it's just like take it all in and like keep it to myself, and then hopefully it'll pass and
Hmm.
maybe, listen to some music to forget about it.
Would you say that you have a weak support system?
Um, I mean, for certain things, I mean, of like what I want to do, like I'm not sure what I want to do, and like some of the things that I would like to do, like my dad doesn't support and he thinks
Hmm.
they're a bad idea.
Hmm.
And I know my mom would like support me in anything I do,
Hmm.
but I don't want to reach out for that, and like I don't want to I don't want somebody's like support. Like I can do it myself.
And why wouldn't you want someone else's support, or especially your mom's support?
I don't like. I feel like I've already like leaned on her enough, and it's like I almost feel like a burden because she has other children and her husband to take care of. Like,
Hmm.
why give her another thing to worry about? So I mean, I want to be able to be self sufficient.
Do you think that this, you being independent, self sufficient, correlates with any of your personal relationships, whether it be friendships, boyfriend, any sort of thing like that?
I think it definitely affects it. I mean, I have a boyfriend, and like when we go to dinner or places, I mean, I don't like him to pay for me and stuff
Hmm.
because I mean, I know that's like chivalry, and I appreciate the gesture, but at the same time, like, I don't need someone to take care of me. Like,
Hmm.
I don't want to have to rely on somebody because they could just leave any second, and then you'll be by yourself.
That makes a lot of sense. Um, have you ever had any history of risky behavior or substance abuse? Something that helps you cope with this issue?
Um, well, more and more lately, I mean, at my house, my parents, not really my mom, but my stepdad, drinks beers, so we have a lot of alcohol at home.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's always there, and I mean, just getting a little buzz, every other night, makes it feel better.
Hmm.
It's not as bad to deal with.
Have you ever been dependent on alcohol or thought that you couldn't stop drinking it?
Well, I mean, it's definitely like a comfort blanket, and it makes me feel a lot better. So I mean, I don't want to stop. I mean,
Hmm.
it makes everything better, and it's like it's nice.
And how drunk would you say that you get on a normal night?
I mean, since I live at home, I mean, it's kind of, I have to get only so far, that my mom won't notice or
Hmm.
anyone won't notice
Hmm.
and so the point where I can feel it, but that where I don't visibly show it.
What about when you're not at home?
I would definitely say probably drunk, pretty drunk. I mean, I still remember the night. I don't black out, but it's definitely not a good. I mean, it's not a good feeling afterwards.
And is that a regular thing when you're not at home to drink?
Um, I don't go out a lot because my mom's pretty strict, but when I do go out, yeah, I do.
Okay. Does your family have any um, substance abuse history?
My grandpa is a pretty heavy drinker,
Hmm.
and all of his siblings are. And I mean, at family gatherings, we're always around. There's just alcohol everywhere. So
Hmm.
I mean, it's always around, and it's like socially acceptable with around them.
And it's just alcohol?
Yeah, it's not really any drugs I can think of. It's just mostly just alcohol.
What about any other mental health issues such as anxiety?
Um, I think definitely like before big tests and stuff, it really gets to me, and like day before and like the morning of are really hard for me to
Mhm.
like deal with.
And in your family, do other family members deal with anxiety, like test anxiety?
Um, my mom does too, and so does my sister.
Hmm.
They get really like worked up, and like it's really stressful for them,
Hmm.
and like they get really like nervous, and it's really stressful.
And what about in your family, any issues with mental illness or mental health care?
No, not like exactly. My mom is concerned that she has depression,
Hmm.
but other than that, no.
And why do you think that she has signs of depression?
I think she could. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I don't. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But I mean, she definitely has her like really low days where she just can't kick them, and they could be for like no reason or something from like a long time ago, and she could be like in 3 or 4 day
Hmm.
spells
Hmm.
about it.
And how does that affect you?
I mean, it's really hard because like the whole family, feels like you can tell when someone's upset,
Hmm.
and so I mean, it makes everything like it's you can't be like happy around her because she's just so upset.
Hmm.
And like my stepdad like feeds off that because I mean, if your spouse isn't happy, then you're unhappy.
Hmm.
So I mean, I think it definitely like for a whole couple days, the whole house could just be kind of meandering around.
Hmm. And do you think that, based on these issues with your mom, that that also contributes to your isolation?
I think so because I mean, I don't like want to be around someone who's sad. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, it's not fun to be sad and then to be sad with someone else. So, I mean, and me and my mom don't really have the best relationship. So I definitely try and isolate myself and keep my life just to me.
And do you ever turn to your boyfriend, or you said you and your sister are really close, when you are feeling isolated?
Yeah. Ever since I started dating my boyfriend, it hasn't been so bad.
Hmm.
Cause I mean, I can call him, and talk about it, but at the same time, I don't want to like fully rely on him because, you know, he could leave too. So I mean, it's like a struggle of deciding like how much to like rely on someone.
Hmm. So, do you think that because of your parents' divorce and your dad's remarrying and then getting divorced again, that you feel um, that people can just up and leave whenever they want?
I think definitely. I mean, that's how like I feel like my dad. Like I know he's been around, but at the same time, like in middle school, he never went to any of my like sports games or my like theater performances,
Hmm.
and hardly ever a couple of games, in my high school career.
Hmm.
So I mean, if he's not gonna stick around for his kid, then why would somebody else who's like not related to me want to just stick around for fun?
Hmm. Have you ever talked to anyone about this, such as your boyfriend?
I mean, when we first started talking, I mean, it was really hard to like trust him because we'd had like a past before
Hmm.
and he had like left before. And
Hmm.
so, I mean if you left one time, why wouldn't you leave again? So it was really hard to like trust again that he wouldn't just, get up and leave.
Have you had any past relationships besides him?
Yeah, but before him, I had a relationship for about a year
Hmm.
with someone from Deming, so pretty far. So,
And did you have these same issues in that relationship as well?
I mean, that one, I feel like it was not really a bad relationship, but I mean, we were close in the fact that we talked all the time, but at the same time, how close can you be with someone
Hmm.
that far away? So I feel like I was kind of just like had a long distance like friendship,
Hmm.
and that was it. And it was just kind of like there, and I didn't really put my heart into it because he could just. How would I know what he was doing in Deming?
Hmm. And what ended up terminating that relationship?
Um, Eventually, he didn't want to come down or anything. He said, it was too much like work to drive, and I
Hmm.
was like, well, I can go up, and then there were always excuses, and then the last straw was that I had a game in Deming, a soccer game,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, can you come watch? And he was like, oh, well, I have work. And, the fact that he couldn't take, even half an hour to just watch part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked for his aunt, so the fact that he couldn't ask his aunt for half an hour off just was, like if you can't make time for me, then, I'll just leave.
Right. And how long ago did you end this relationship?
About 2.5 years ago.
Okay, so you've been with your current boyfriend for quite some time.
Yes.
And has he ever mentioned anything about, well, have you talked to him in depth about you feeling isolated from your family?
I mean, I talk to him some, but at the same time, I don't want him to feel like it's his fault or like that, like that he's the reason that I'm isolated or that I feel isolated from him. So I mean, at some point, but I mean, it's really hard for me to like talk about my feelings to other people because I mean, it's hard for me to open up.
So, do you feel that opening up to him is a problem?
I wouldn't say so much as a problem. Maybe as more as like a struggle I have. Like I can do it, but it takes me a long time. It's like a long process, and I mean, it's like hard for me to share like really deep details because I mean they've been like hidden so long to like bring them up is like bringing out the old memories.
Do you have a fear that you don't want? Do you have a fear that if you confront these issues, that you might be rejected in any way?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if I like tell him about like my dad and them like my mom and dad splitting up, because my dad and mom got divorced because my dad cheated on my mom, and it took me like a long time to cope with that. And then like if I tell him that, I don't want him to like automatically assume that I would do that just because of my dad, So,
do you feel like that may be why you're not comfortable talking to him about these issues?
I think it could definitely play a part because I mean, if he like rejects me, then he can leave, and then all of our years together that it'll all be gone, and then I'll be alone.
And what about your sister? Have you ever talked to your sister about these issues?
Yeah, we talk. We haven't talked about them recently, but I mean, we've had like really in-depth talks, and I mean, we're both kind of like in the same place where we have like a hard time trusting people and whatnot. But I mean, we both don't know what to do because we're both in the same boat. So it's just kind of like finding comfort that somebody else is dealing with it too.
And do you think that she has similar issues that you do in her relationships?
I definitely think that she does because now she's in a relationship and they get in a lot of fights about how she can't open up to him, and so that's really hard on their relationship.
And you mentioned that you have a brother. What are his relationships like? Do you know?
He's he's never brought a girl home. I mean, he's not gay, but I mean, he's not that guy. I'm sure he's maybe had girlfriends or flings, but he's never brought anyone home. Or I mean, he's talked about a girl here or there. So, but other than that, no relationships.
Well, it sounds to me like you may have feelings of distrust based on your parents' divorce, and you feel that you have to be, strong all the time and are not able to show any weaknesses. And it's okay to show weakness sometimes. Sometimes you have to let things out because if they are bottled in for so long, then eventually the top of the bottle is going to come off. So it sounds like there are some pressing issues with feeling isolated and feeling rejected that might contribute to your parents' divorce in the past and like relationships that you've had. And I'd like to explore this more in the next session. And I'm very thankful for you for sharing this with me. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.